Our meeting to order. What's up on the agenda tonight is approval of the agenda. If there's no need for amendments, I'll seek a motion for approval. Second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Next up, we have our minutes that need approving from October 3rd, public hearing, and the regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve both sets of minutes? So moved. And a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Moving on now to administrative reports. This past weekend, I had the pleasure of attending the Western North Carolina Farm to Table dinner held in Bridge Park. It was delicious, and got to hang out with some really wonderful people. Eat some fresh local foods, everything you can imagine. It was wonderful evening. Got a little chilly, but other than that, it was a lot of fun. Is any other commissioners have anything to report? No, sir.
No report.
Turn it over to Mr. Adams and County Manager report.
No handouts. I do want to commend the Department on Aging. Last Thursday, they did hold their annual Hands-On Jackson. There were over 220 volunteers, raised over $17,000 for projects. They had over 37 projects, including 7 handicap ramps, other construction projects such as decks, stairs, several pressure washing projects, gutter cleaning, yard maintenance. It's just a great annual event that Eddie Wells and his staff, along with a whole slew of volunteers and teams who get together to try to help out our community. And I just like to thank Eddie and his staff and all the volunteers who make that day a great day. And we do have one person signed up for public comments.
Mr. Darnell?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm talking on 2 subjects. One, Andrews Park, there off Pine Creek, and Kudzu. Sunday they closed for the season, very normal, what have you. But what's been observed is the road going to the park. There's 14 houses on the road, and then it goes into a dirt road going to the park. Well, 3 of the houses are served by asphalt, wherein what I'm asking here, getting to is to ask DOD, what have you, put it together, to pave the road, extend the pavement. Part of the reason that there's been some hesitancy, only to a measure, is because people are going to speed and go fast, what have you. Well, the type of speed bump that goes up to the library when you're going up this way, not Savannah, but up this way, that type of speed bump is a okay speed bump where it would dissuade those to drive fast. I say that also in part, you would have to have a gentle speed bump, not a hard one, because a lot of motorhomes have air suspensions, and it's rough on them. It's not cool. But something like that is quite manageable, and so I'm asking about paving and however much you can go forward on that, at least to the end of the 14th house. And I think that's all within reason. So that's principally why I'm standing here. The second thing is I think we got to start thinking about Kudzu. Now, Representative Clampett, I referred to this the other night. He was in Cashers doing that thing. And it's really heavy duty here now. See, kudzu can grow 9 to 14 inches a day. A way of managing it is not just doing a big poison thing and kill the dirt, but there's actually an equitable consideration here in that, and it's done in other areas. I've given reference to this before last year. I've been dealing with my house burning down stuff, so but anyway, goats. Setting up some goats, little goat farms, or get with those in the area that have goats, You stake goats out with diapers, and the droppings off the diapers are as good as bat guano. You can sell it. So there's an equitable approach to handling the issue. Plus, it's got it. I swear to God, the next time you take a ride, like going over to Franklin 441, we're just around 107. Okay, we know the drift. So I think that some talk I asked to be generated on that subject matter of the country. So the paving of Sunset Cove going to the park, David, who manages the thing for several years, wow, what a job he's done. That has been just so incalculable. But that needs to be done in such a way that it dissuades people to speed going down that road. And plus the dust, you want to hold the dust down because once you get in there, if it's a dusty time, and here you're setting up and all that. And, so that's what's happening there. All right.
Great, thank you. See what we can get done. Moving on now to finance report from Ms. Fox.
Good afternoon. I'll go over the highlights for the month of September. The general fund revenues collected to date is $23,205,277. That's 26.21% of budget. The expenditures, $21,077,018. That's 25.81% of the budget. So at the end of September, the revenues were $2,128,259 more than the expenditures. The ad valorem taxes collected is $18,703,241. That's 42.68% of budget. And the motor vehicle taxes are at 17.83% of budget at $353,565. The prior year taxes collected is $152,822. That's 30.56%. The sales and use tax distribution we received in September was $2,031,094. That represented June sales. That amount was $18,494 more than we received in September of 2022. The Article 46 distribution was $226,786. So the average increase for the FY23 fiscal year ended at 4.3% above the prior year. And the prior year was 12.74% above the year before that. The landfill disposal fees collected was $1,001,930. That's 32.78% of budget. And the prior year landfill disposal fees was $22,884. That's 26.92% of the budget. The growth revenues we're tracking, planning is under the percentage we're expecting by 11.6%. Code enforcement is right on target. Environmental health is 2.82% below, and register of deeds is 4.7% above. Usually you see the register of deeds increasing first. The general fund contingency balance at the end of the month was $961,748.57. I'd be glad to answer any questions on the report.
Questions from the board? Not there, motion to approve the finance report? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you, Ms. Fox.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ms. Henson with our tax collector and refund reports. Good evening.
Good evening. For the month of September, the current taxes collected were $3,950,738. The delinquent taxes collected for the month were $38,373. The total collected for the month of September was $4,200,600.69, refunds of $934.64, and there were releases of $52.85. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Is there a motion for approval? And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, thank you. Moving on now to new business and our Great Grant Award.
Yes, sir. So you can see my name's on 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are all items that were discussed with the board at the work session. And so the first item is the Great Grant Award, the exhibit. You can see there's an actual change here. There's some wording change that the NCDIT asked us to change. Is very minimal. We removed a minimal total project cost to the grant award. Other than that, it is proving off on the $182,000 match to the $2.4 million project.
Is there a motion for, well, first, is there any questions from the board? Is there a motion for approval of the Great Grant County match? Second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Chairman Letson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
And just a reminder to the board, what will come back to you, this is showing the state that we are committing the match through this Exhibit J. There will be the larger contract that will eventually have to come back for the board. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it all matters to us, but the real important information is this Exhibit J. Next is the state extension raises. We do have Rob Hawk here. If there's any additional questions in regards to the match, just put back in there the cover letter that Mr. Hawk provided. And this is ultimately, since the state did pass their budget, it did pass raises for the NC State employees or corporate extension employees. Generally, we're about is it over about 50-50 on average? So our $3,386 is our 50% of the 4% raise.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Sure.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling,
Yes.
Chairman Letson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
So the next item of discussion is is in regards to, I'm sorry, I'm going to pull something up. This is the handout that I passed out to everybody, but we'll get back to it. This is in regards to the Summit Charter School facility loan request. We did provide all the information that was provided when this was presented. I do believe we do have representatives from Charter School here. Kurt is behind me, who presented to the board. I will bring up the letter of request again, just a reminder for the board, but for the public too. This is something had been discussed at our work session. Currently, the Summit Charter School is looking to build a high school. They're basically looking to borrow $2.5 million from Jackson County to be paid over, as we discussed, a 3-year period. As you can see, they have already fundraised some funds, and they expect to fundraise the remaining amount over the construction period, and that's why they feel comfortable that they can repay the loan. I'm not going to go over all the details because we spent the time at our last meeting, and so ultimately the request is before the board to move forward. Now, right now, there's not an actual agreement in front of you. What I'm looking to do is, if the board wishes to move forward, I'm recommending that we start off. Well, what I have enclosed in your packets is a letter of intent, and I'll try to give a little bit of time, Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Jones. Hopefully, you can see this. But ultimately, what this really is it's not a commitment to Summit, because we can't really get a commitment until some things are actually done. For example, you can see this is a proposed intent letter that would be approved by this board, signed off by Todd Bryson, our vice chair, because as you recall, our chair cannot vote. He's recused. So also today, the board will not be able to vote on this. And the reason being is we have two people in Zooming, in which those people cannot be part of the majority of the vote. We have three commissioners sitting here in which one commissioner can't participate. So technically, we have two commissioners that can actually vote on this. Now, there's going to be other discussions about later on for this board to have about maybe recessing this meeting till a later date and so forth. But until the majority of the board is sitting here that can vote, this cannot be voted on. But the idea, I'd just like to go over this. What this does is it just gives direction to staff and gives somewhat direction or an idea from the school about what our next steps would be. So just bear with me. This proposed letter of intent, as you see, I just wrote, this is a follow-up regarding their presentation at the October 10th work session. Putting words in your mouth, Commissioner Bryson, but the board's pleased to inform you that Jackson County Board of Commissioners intends to move forward with your request with the following conditions. First, all actions must be allowable by North Carolina law. Jackson County will require all documentation to be reviewed and approved by county legal representation prior to approval and implementation. What the first item that needs to happen, our first step, is we have to get an opinion from our legal counsel that we can proceed forward with this. This is a brand new law. If there was some precedent where this had been going on for years, then there would be models that we could follow. But right now, we need to make sure everything we're doing is legal. So the first step is we'd have to get a legal opinion. And then obviously, when we pull together things like the deed of trust and promissory note, we'd also have to get approval from our legal counsel on that. Two is just basic concept. What's being requested, the loan amount would be up to $2.5 million. The payback timeline would be 36 months. The interest rate would be based upon the actual return on investment that Jackson County is receiving for its cash investment. Current ROI is 5.5%. The next one would be that the charter school would be responsible for all costs associated with this loan. And then goes on to state the Jackson County requests that Summit Charter School commit to these costs in writing, meaning we'd ask for them to respond and say that they understand that they would be responsible for all legal costs. And that's including the opinion that we will need to get before we can proceed forward. The loan must be secured by a promissory note and deed of trust. And I go on to state the goal is to have the funds available to Summit Charter by January 2024, but actual availability of funds will be dictated on how long it takes to accomplish all of these things. Can't actually give them the funds until all of these items are accomplished. And then this states that this letter is not a formal commitment. All tasks above and any other items deemed appropriate must be completed prior to Jackson County Board of Commissioners taking any final action. The board must take final action prior to any funds being made available for this project. So, as I said, this is a letter of intent, not a commitment letter. If the board chose to vote to move forward with this, then I would hope that you're serious that if we get legal opinions and get all the legal documentations together and spend the thousands of dollars necessary to get it together, that you intend to move forward under these conditions. And for me, this gives staff direction to go spend this money with the understanding we're going to get reimbursed and to try to get all this accomplished to get the money available by the beginning of the calendar year. And so a couple of things I can tell you, I've had some follow-up questions from press and so forth. For example, that interest rate, is it variable or is it set? The request is for it to be set. From a manager's perspective, I don't see this any different than you go for a home mortgage. I mean, you ultimately get a commitment from them. They set the interest rate, and as long as you close within a certain period of time, then you've got that locked-in mortgage rate. So I don't see why we would treat the charter school any different than that. Some people may argue you'd want a variable in case we were making more money in a year from now, but the reality is we could actually be making less money a year from now. Meaning, a year from now, we may be only making 4% off of our money, not 5.5. That's the kind of risk that banks and lenders generally take. So I honestly, and if we went variable, it would just be very complicated to track on a monthly basis. I think they wanted to move forward with the payments on a monthly basis. That gives them the best pay down on the principal and gives them where they pay the least amount back on interest. And so we'd prefer not to be, I don't see the need to go variable, but that's up to this board. The final decision on this is this board. The other questions has been asked, and this is something Commissioner Bryson, you had brought up. What are the risks? Well, the risks are you're lending $2.5 million that's going to be secured by a deed of trust on the property. And ultimately, if they default, generally speaking, promissory notes and deeds of trust have some type of foreclosure on defaults. And, that's the risk you run if for some reason they're not able to pay it back. I think I made this statement before. Nobody's going to want to foreclose on the school, right? But that's just the risk that's there for any loan that's given out. Ultimately, I was also asked with the finances, these are just questions that came to me from press and other people. Would we evaluate the financial capability of the charter school? And I was also being asked, why would we not research them as much as a bank would? Well, just so you know, they did qualify for a bank loan. Okay, this really, from the charter school perspective, and I'm kind of speaking I don't want to speak directly for them, but my perception is this is really just trying to save some interest. Ultimately, the 5.5% is better interest than what they were going to get from the bank. Okay, which I think was going to be on the higher end of 7. Right below 8. And this is really charter school trying to approach the board. There's a new law that allows us to fund charter schools and approach the board to see if there's a way for them to save interest. The point of me stating that they were able to get private financing is all of that information. If the board chooses to move forward with this letter of intent, that pulls the trigger on all of these things, and they've agreed to share that information with the county, all the information that they provided to the bank. We got to make sure we're careful with this, whether or not any of it is private or not. We'll work through that. But ultimately, I believe they will be able to show us information that is what qualified them for a bank loan to start with. And so I'm just trying to respond to some questions I've already received. A couple other things to note for everybody to understand. And this is something I just really realized, was just told. Let me see if everybody can see that. This is a parcel report. This is the actual charter school. And this is the land, I believe, in which the high school is going to be built on. So this is where the investment's going to take place. And so ultimately, I believe this would be where we would have the promissory note and the deed of trust. And so that land value right now is 300. Where's it at? Yep, 45,000. But remember, the school is investing. A total was around 9 million somewhere. I mean, it's the 2.8 that you already have. You already got the commitments from the other two, and then you're looking for the 2.5 for us. I think what we could do is in our deed of trust, and I haven't talked to the school about this, we could request that they spend these other available funds first so that we know that they've invested 2.8 million in that property before we invest our other 2.5. And what that ensures, you can handle this and I think that was the plan anyways, because this is a gap loan. That's the way they're considering it. And so then that helps ensure that there's value invested in that property above and beyond our loan. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to throw it back over for discussions and any questions. Again, If the board wishes to move forward, then the recommendation is to move forward with some version of this letter of intent. And that's what would trigger all the steps that I just mentioned. And then the next thing this board would see would be actually the promissory note and the deed of trust if we get past legal opinions and all of that.
So we can't move forward today, though, with just the two here.
No, there can't be a vote. If there's a meeting between now and, the next scheduled meeting is November 7th. And then unless there's another meeting scheduled between now and then there just can't be a vote.
So any other questions?
Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir.
If we recess this meeting to a future date when we can have quorum to vote on this issue, is that something that can be accomplished?
I'm going to make a statement, but I'm going to ask Mr. Cubis to confirm. This isn't a established agenda item, so I believe recessing this meeting will allow for this topic to continue to be discussed and voted upon. Is that a correct statement, Mr. Cubis? Or?
It is, Mr. Adams, yes.
Do we need to take a vote on that?
Not yet. No, sir.
So we'll move it on to the next November.
No, we'll table it.
Oh,
there
table it.
and then pick it up.
Okay.
At another time.
There may or may not be a discussion about recessing this meeting, and that's where you're not aware of it, but it may, if it doesn't recess, then it's going to be November 7th. The only ways this gets done is it gets put on the November 7th meeting, a special call meeting takes place between now and then, or this meeting gets recessed.
Mr. Adams, if I may interject.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vice Chair Bryson, on November 6th, I have surgery which will prevent me from being at the November 7th meeting. Should be able to Zoom on the work session, but we don't take action, and may be able to be in person at the last meeting of November, our third meeting. But my request would, and even though I can't make a motion, being Zooming, is to recess the meeting to another day, potentially this week, if it's conducive to the other commissioners.
My only availability the rest of this week would be Friday evening, but early next week is fine.
Okay.
Let's see. Actually, any time next week would be fine.
Mark, are you okay next week, or are you pretty tied up?
No, sir, I'm available any day.
Okay. We'll discuss a date then, maybe next week. When we recess, if we recess. Okay. So moving on to our Savannah Community Development Center request.
Okay, yes, sir. Again, this is follow-up discussions in regards to what happened at a work session. And what's in front of you is a request from the Savannah Community Development Center. And again, they were requesting funding to repair the ceilings, and then also funding for gravel for the parking lot. So the request is $4580 for the ceilings and either $4536 or $2800 for the parking lot.
I feel like we all kind of agreed that going ahead and spending the $4536 was worth it, just for the amount of use that building gets and the amount of work that's going to be done. This will last them a good little while. So if there's a motion, do we need to separate these two?
I think if you just throw it in the motion that you're awarding, the $4580 for the ceiling repair and 4536 for parking lot repair.
Okay.
That's fine.
Is there a motion to award 4580 for building repair and 4536 for parking lot repair?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bryson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman Letson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Okay. Animal shelter name change.
Yes, sir. And again, going back for the board, I just feel comfortable the board approves this. Again, this is going, changing the name from Animal Rescue Center back to its original name of Animal Shelter. And as you can see, when we change out the letters, we'll save some of the letters. And we have not ordered any, just a reminder to the board and the public, we have not ordered any other signage at this point. And we've been waiting on this decision, then we can start ordering entrance signage and interior signage and so forth. But the request is to change the name from Animal Rescue Center back to Animal Shelter.
Is there a motion to change that name back to animal shelter?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bryson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman Letson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on now to our medical care supplement plan.
Yes, sir. And so this is a new item of discussion for the board. Normally, we would turn this into work session conversations, but the reality is timing would not allow us to take this to the second Tuesday in November. And so I needed to go ahead and bring this information to the board and discuss it. Mark Browder with Mark III is our insurance consultant, and he is Zooming in right now. And Mr. Browder met via Zoom with us, us meaning myself, Ms. Fox, and also with our Human Resources Director, Kathleen Breedlove. We've had a couple meetings in the last week discussing Medicare supplement plan. This is a plan for all of our retirees that are 65 and older. Up until age 65, all retirees stay on our basic main plan. It's the same plan that all of us are on, but once they become Medicare eligible, we switch them to a Medicare plan and then supplement that plan. Generally, it's for medical supplement and drug card supplement. And so Mr. Browder has presented us with an opportunity that I believe that we should take serious consideration. Timing on this, because it is Medicare, we have to move forward and really get training and implementing in November. Actually start implementation in November, training the beginning of December, it becomes effective beginning of January. This runs separate than our normal insurance year, and that's why we have to have this conversation mid-year versus normal budget time. So, Mr. Browder, I'll go ahead and pull this up on the screen and turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Adams. Thank you for meeting with me this evening. So the market has changed pretty dramatically when it comes to post-65 coverage. In North Carolina, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina has become extremely competitive in this market. Last year, we started implementing plans with Blue Cross based on their competitive position and started receiving proposals last year that were real opportunities. This year, Blue Cross expressed a strong interest in Jackson County, and I received that information and then shared it with staff. You could go to the next slide. So what you see in front of you is plan designs that we're seeing, which match up very closely to the medical portion of the benefits that you offer today. The Medicare Advantage prescription drug plan is a PPO plan. Retirees can go both in and out of network. It also provides additional benefits that currently aren't in your contract today, such as hearing aid allowance and vision hardware allowance as well. If you go to the next slide.
If you would, Mark, just mention to them why that $1,000 you see this annual out-of-pocket maximum, the $1,000 is there because you have to put a number in there, correct? Meaning, there is no,
That's
if you
correct.
look at all of these expenses, there are no, the only place you may have that maximum if you're dealing with hearing aids or, really the vision hardware allowance, that's a maximum there, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what you have to put a number in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
correct. So thank you, Mr. Adams. So Medicare requires that there be an out-of-pocket limit within the contract, but as you can see from the cost, there aren't on an in-network basis. There's no way for you to hit that $1,000. And then the only way on this slide for an out-of-pocket amount would be emergency room, which is only $50 for if you go to an out-of-network provider, and that's nearly impossible to hit that.
So everybody understands this is much richer than the plan that county employees are on, because we have a higher deductible, higher co-pays, things of that nature. All right.
So this is the plan design, and I think staff has some comments on this that has been proposed with other clients and also for Jackson County. So for preferred, what you see in the preferred network, which is where 99% of all medications are going to fall into, is in the preferred network. The benefits are very rich on the 30-day benefit through plans, discretion through tiers 3, 4, and 5. There is a limitation on the tier 5, especially that it's monthly prescription refills only. And that's a little bit different than the plan that you have today, but the vast majority, especially pharmacies, fulfillment is on a 30-day basis. The non-preferred is not as rich. There is an out-of-pocket, especially on the tier 5, especially a co-insurance amount of 33%. But again, from a network perspective, the pharmacies that are in the network, you're going to see 95% north utilization in network. The only pharmacy that is not in network that is significant in your area is CVS Caremark, but Walgreens, Walmart, the local pharmacies are all in network. We put this plan into place at Lee County last year, and it went really well. What we got was a lot of positive feedback from retirees. So we've got a year's worth of experience under our belt, and it's gone really well for Lee.
So we're going to come back and give a little bit more detail. Let me tell you, anytime you switch this around, when you deal with drug cards, that's mainly the area that you see that you got to pay attention to. And this is where we spend a lot of our time having conversations with our insurance consultant, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and so forth. We'll come back to this. I want to explain that a little bit more. But let's go through and talk about the benefits, Mark, and then we'll come back to that. You talked about this.
And this, as Don mentioned, the plan matches up very closely. You've got a very good plan in place today with the Hartford. There's a few things in this that you don't have, such as the hearing aid allowance and the vision hardware allowance. But for the most part, you don't have a donut hole. You have a great plan today, but there's some economic opportunity for the county. And at the same time, having economic opportunity, not diminishing benefits for your post-65 retirees. So one thing that is worth noting on this, so all of these benefits match up to what we've just talked about, but usually you're getting rate increases on an annual basis. This is the plan benefits and the rates themselves are guaranteed for 2 years. So for the calendar year 24 and the calendar year 25, and these are the rates. And I think staff can address the economic side of it for the county. And again, of course, it's not just an economic conversation. It's also how do the benefits line up for your retirees, which I think it matches very well.
So So currently, on average, we're paying around, I'm gonna have Darlene explain in a little bit more detail, because one of our plans, we have two different plans that's covering, we have a medical plan and a drug card plan currently for our post-65. This collapses it down to one plan. Currently, on average, for our existing plan, we're paying $466 per month per retiree. We have 109 retirees. And if we switch to this plan, what is the annual savings?
$252,000.
So this is why I could not wait to come back. We really just needed to get this on the agenda and talk to the board about this. So say that number again.
252,000.
Two-
It's guaranteed for 2 years, so we're talking $500,000 savings.
So in 2 years, and so we currently, just talk about our current contracts.
Okay, Hartford, and we just got a 6.5% projected rate increase on it. And we have Benestar that does RX. So they're both, the Hartford's based on age also.
So
The
that,
full cost is not, it's a per member.
so that's why I'm saying the average is 466, okay? We got some that pay more, we pay more than 466, some we pay a little bit less, but the average is 466 a month per employee, per post 65, so we can project $250,000 savings annually on this.
Is that with the 6.5% rate increase?
That's not factoring in the 6.5% rate increase at this time.
So that, again, you can understand why I needed to bring this to and have a discussion with the board. And so the main thing when I do this, whenever you talk about changing retiree insurance, it will catch the attention of retirees, okay? And I just want to assure people that we want to keep benefits as good, if not better. And obviously, the benefits for these post-65 are better than our actual pre-65 and existing employees. So first of all, we need to make that comment and statement. The second thing is when you start talking about comparing drug cards. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, just so you know, I'm going to go back up to this top. I'm not going to spend the time on these plan designs because you can see, and this is fairly standard, just so you know, the plan designs, there's just no cost to the post-65 person. And in network, out of network, this is in Hartford and this is pretty standard. So where I'm going to spend most of the time in our conversations is in regard to the pharmacy, because it really gets into when you start talking about generics, preferred brand, non-preferred, specialty, all of these things start making a difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up another file. So I'd asked Darlene to put this together so that, you know, everybody knows. Oh, what did I do there? Hit the wrong, they're behind here. And I'm going to have to collapse that. There. So what you have here, so what I asked Darlene to do is put the drug card benefits that we're talking about switching to here, and this is our current benefits. And so if any of you have ever gone out and used your drug card for your insurance, you know that there's different tiers, different levels. Sometimes your copay is $0, sometimes your copay is $50. That's all based upon the formulary of how they tiered these drugs. And so there's always standards of tier 1, tier 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes tiers go a little more, sometimes less, but right here we're looking at 5 tiers versus 5 tiers. And so you can see on a tier 1, anything in the preferred matches up absolutely 0 to the old versus the new. You can see in tier 2, as long as you stay within the preferred, ultimately your 3-month or 90-day may increase by $10. You see the $30 copay versus the $20 copay. But that's $10 over 3 months. Just understand. And then ultimately, you go to tier 3, you actually start seeing a much better benefit for our employees, our retirees. You can see tier 3 and tier 4. You can see that the 30-day and the 60-day and the 90-day really is better than what we currently have. And you can see tier 4, you can say the same thing. And then ultimately tier 5 does change a little bit. So you can see tier 1, 2, pretty much the same. 3 and 4, we do a little bit better. And tier 5, ultimately, since they restrict it to a monthly purchase, and if somebody was used to purchasing 3 months, at 140, this would be 180 versus 140. So there, over a 3-month period, you may see a $40 difference. The main thing we want to pay attention to is things like this 33% that's outside of non-preferred retail and things of that nature. We're talking about saving a considerable amount of money, but we're trying to be conscious to make sure that there's not people out there that turns into hundreds a month versus $10. I'm not discounting $10 a month to anybody, but there's a significant difference between conversations of $10 a month versus hundreds a month. And ultimately, what we'll have to do is we can't, until you go through this, you really have to work through this. Tier 5 specialty tiers, if I understood correctly, at most generally turn out to be about 1 to 3% of your of your base. If we got about 109 people, at most you're talking about 3. You could be talking about 1 or 2 people. We got to make sure when we transition that we work with them that they basically find the preferred retail, so they don't find themselves purchasing whatever out of tier 5 out of a non-preferred. And that's the main thing. We just got to make sure we work with them. I was assured by Blue Cross Blue Shield that even if we couldn't, Mr. Browder had mentioned that locally, see, a lot of retirees, they purchase that they have their medicine delivered to their homes. Okay, so they may do it through a Walmart or CVS, but some do it by companies that are online. There are more drug companies than the pharmacies that you see here in town. But just so everybody knows, in town, there is something going on with CVS does not fall within this preferred. But Walmart does, Walgreens does, Eastgate does, Mark's Pharmacy does. I think that's all of them here, right? So all of those do actually fall within the preferred. So this is what, if any of those 109 people are using them, they would fall into that. We just have to educate them to make sure that they switch to the preferred, and then ultimately really pay attention to the specialty 5 tier, just so that, the 1 to 3 people that may be in that category gets educated and assisted well enough to make sure that they get their drugs through some preferred vendor.
Do we send out like a mailer, or will Mr. Brower send out a mailer to all of our current retirees on plan?
Mark, you want me to address that?
So there's
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So Blue Cross Blue Shield, what they will do is this is a timing issue we have here too. What they will do is we will have on-site training where they'll be here. We'll invite retirees that still live here. Now we do have, I think we have one in South Carolina and one down in Georgia. So those are going to have to be mailers. We're not going to be able to drive down to South Carolina or Georgia to assist people, but we will have on-site training that we will invite them in, and Blue Cross Blue Shield will come and try to provide, not only give them a flyer, but talk to them about and try to educate them on that. And then right now, our Human Resources Office also, Kathleen Breedlove and her staff will work to try to send out information and be there for retirees to help guide them through this. Mark, is there anything else, Mr. Browder, that I'm missing on that?
No, you got it all right, Don.
And the retirees will have to fill out a new application. Blue Cross will first.
And I really have, because this really, it concerns, every time we have this conversation, I'm telling you, you're going to get phone calls. Okay, that's what's going to happen. And so we do take this seriously. We try to do the best we can, but we can't ignore $250,000 savings. So, any questions?
Any questions from the board? Is there a motion to adopt this new retiree benefit package, Medicare supplement plan?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bryson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stribling?
Yes.
Chairman Letson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
And so, thank you, everybody, and sorry it's the last minute, but this really, what this does now in the next weeks, allows us to get all the paperwork done. As soon as I can get the paperwork signed with Blue Cross Blue Shield, we can quickly start educating everybody, and the sooner we can start doing that, the better we can put everybody at ease as far as trying to educate them before. We got now time between now and December to educate everybody and get them prepared for the transition. The other thing too, they'll have one card instead of two.
That'd be nice, yeah.
I think too many people are gonna complain about saving some money.
Are there any questions from the press? Okay. Before, we do have a need to go into closed session tonight for personnel and legal client confidentiality tonight. But is there a motion to take a quick recess, 5 minutes,
So moved.
before we go into closed session?
Second.
So recess.
taken, I'm sorry, Logan, ready? No action was taken in closed session. Tonight, we are going to recess since we still have that Summit Charter School. We have a need to go back into closed session on the 24th. Is that applicable for y'all's schedule?
24th would be fine for me.
Okay. At 6 p.m., is that okay, John? No action was taken in closed
Yep.
session.
That's fine.
Mark, is that okay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And
That would be a 6 p.m. meeting.
correct.
Okay.
24th at 6. John, do you have any additional comments tonight?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
If there's no further business, I'll make a motion that is there a motion that we recess to the 24th at 6 p.m.?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? They are recessed.